February 8th, 2026. Tens of millions of Thais woke up, got dressed, and headed to their polling stations. It felt like any other election day. Routine, normal, calm. But by nightfall, something felt deeply off. Not just the results and the whole thing. The ballots, the counting, the QR codes. Something didn't add up, and people noticed immediately. So here's what I want to tell you today. Thailand just held an election that might, and I mean might, end up being thrown out entirely. By a court. Again? Yeah, again. And honestly, when you hear the full story, you'll completely understand why millions of people are furious right now. Stick with me. This gets wild. Okay, first things first, the results. Thailand's ruling Bhumjaithai party, led by Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul, came in first with 193 out of 500 seats. A decisive conservative comeback. Second place? The People's Party, 118 seats. They swept every constituency in Bangkok. Now here's why that matters. People's Party is basically the reborn version of Move Forward. Remember them? Move Forward won the most seats back in 2023. Most seats should have formed the government, but they were blocked by unelected senators appointed by the military. Does that sound fair to you? Then in August 2024, the Constitutional Court dissolved Move Forward entirely. 10-year political bans for party leaders, the party just ceased to exist. Their supporters regrouped and became the People's Party. Third place went to Pheu Thai, the party connected to billionaire ex-PM Thaksin Shinawatra. Just 74 seats, their worst result in decades. A stunning collapse for a once dominant political force. Within days, Bhumjaithai and Pheu Thai announced a coalition deal. Together, 267 seats, just over the 2x51 needed for a majority. Stable on paper, but not everyone was buying it. Here's a detail worth noting. Voter turnout dropped to 65%, lower than 2023. And People's Party actually got more party list votes than Bhumjaithai. More votes, just fewer seats. How does that happen? The ink wasn't even dry on those results when complaints started flooding in. Not 10, not 50. Over 4,000 complaints reached election monitoring groups within the first few days alone. The official election commission received 113 formal complaints. The most common type? Vote buying, cash exchange for votes, in multiple provinces. Before election day even finished. That's the first problem. In Chiang Rai, a man was reportedly arrested carrying cash and a voter list. He allegedly admitted the money was meant to buy votes. One person caught. How many others weren't caught? Then came the counting issues. Ballots counted in dark rooms. Valid votes classified as invalid. Online tallies that didn't match physical counts. Observers denied access to counting rooms in multiple locations. The Election Commission ordered recounts at 9 polling stations across 5 provinces. Then ordered fresh revotes at 4 separate locations. All within the first 2 weeks. That's a serious number of do-overs. The legal monitoring group iLaw even reported cases where the number of ballots exceeded the number of eligible voters at a polling station. More ballots than voters. Let that sink in for a moment. Quick question for you. If you showed up to vote and later found out your polling station's count was being questioned, would you trust the final result? Think about that honestly. But here's where it gets really interesting, and honestly, kind of alarming. A few days after the election, someone posted a photo of their ballot on Facebook and noticed something strange on it. A QR code, right there on the ballot. The user asked, could this QR code potentially be scanned and traced back to the individual voter? The post went viral within hours. The country stopped and stared. The Election Commission responded quickly. Relax. The barcode just identifies which batch of ballots came from which polling station. Administrative security only. It is absolutely not linked to individual voters personally. Nothing to worry about. But then a mathematician posted a different analysis. He broke down the serial numbering system on the ballots and claimed those numbers follow a specific formula, one that could theoretically be reverse engineered to identify a specific voter. His formula: take the ballot number, divide by 20, add 1, and you get the book number. Each book is assigned to a specific polling station, and stations are assigned to specific voter rolls. Follow the chain. In theory, and I want to be clear, this is theoretical, someone with access to the right government databases could trace a specific ballot back to a specific human being. That is the claim on the table. Thailand's constitution, Article 85, is crystal clear. Elections must be direct and secret. Secret meaning absolutely no one can know who you voted for. Not theoretically, not possibly, not ever. That's the constitutional standard. Here's the legal question now sitting before Thai courts. Does the mere possibility of tracing a vote, even if nobody actually did it, already violate the secret ballot? What do you think? Think of it this way. Imagine a voting booth with a tiny hole in the wall. Nobody peeked through it, but the hole exists. Is the election already compromised? That's the exact question Thai judges must now answer. Former Constitutional Court Judge Karan said publicly, if electronic or scientific evidence shows ballots can be traced, the court might well rule the election is not secret. And if it's not secret, it gets nullified. Former Deputy Prime Minister Wisanu, a deeply respected legal scholar, said he personally believes the election is not secret. Secret must mean secret forever. Not just at the moment you marked your ballot. But a law professor from Chulalongkorn University said, yes, it's not secret. But that alone doesn't automatically nullify. Courts look for actual harm. So far, nobody has proven their specific vote was actually traced by anyone. 3 courts are now actively involved: Constitutional Court, Administrative Court, Criminal Court for corruption. Multiple petitions running simultaneously on multiple legal tracks. The entire judicial system is flooded with cases from this one election. The Ombudsman, a constitutional watchdog, demanded the EC explain the QR code issue by today, February 27th. If the answer isn't satisfying, the Ombudsman can fast-track the case straight to the Constitutional Court. Okay, I need to step back and give you some essential history, because this isn't Thailand's first time at this exact crossroads, not even close. And the past is absolutely crucial for understanding what might happen next. Go back to 2006. Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra was facing massive street protests in Bangkok. He dissolved parliament and called a snap election, with only 37 days' notice. Opposition parties boycotted entirely. On April 2, 2006, about 29 million Thais voted. But the voting booths faced outward, meaning observers standing nearby could potentially see which box you were marking. Secret ballot? Not exactly. A law professor and an election watchdog filed a complaint with the Constitutional Court. The court agreed, 8-6, the election was unconstitutional. Does that framing sound familiar to what's happening in 2026? The court nullified the entire election, every result, wiped completely clean. New election ordered. 3 election commission members were sentenced to 2 years in prison and stripped of voting rights for 10 years. But the new election never happened. Because in September 2006, just 5 months later, the military launched a coup. Tanks rolled into Bangkok. Thaksin was out. The democratic process just stopped. Fast forward to 2014. Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra, Thaksin's sister, was facing her own massive wave of street protests. She dissolved parliament. Anti-government protesters vowed to physically block the upcoming election. February 2, 2014. Protest groups physically blocked polling stations across Thailand. Candidates in some districts literally couldn't register. 28 constituencies had 0 candidates. Voting was canceled at 69 stations across 18 provinces. The Constitutional Court ruled 6-3. The election was invalid. Thai law requires all voting to occur on the same day nationwide. It didn't. The election, legally speaking, simply did not exist. A few months later, Yingluck herself was removed from office by a separate court ruling. Then in May 2014, the military launched another coup. Same cycle: election, chaos, court ruling, coup. Again. So when Thais today hear talk of nullifying the 2026 election, they aren't panicking over abstract legal theory. They are remembering 2006. They are remembering 2014. They know exactly how this particular movie tends to end. Here's a question worth sitting with. If an election keeps getting nullified by courts every few years, at what point do people stop believing elections can ever deliver real change? Think about that. Now. Here's the part that made a huge number of Thai people absolutely furious. The morning after the election, February 9th, the National Anti-Corruption Commission dropped an announcement that felt like a gut punch. The NACC ruled that 44 former Move Forward lawmakers committed serious ethical violations. Their crime. In 2021, they co-signed a bill proposing to amend Section 112, the Lèse Majesté Law. That's it. Section 112, Thailand's Lèse Majesté Law, carries up to 15 years in prison for criticizing the royal family. Move Forward wanted to reform that. That desire to reform it has now become their legal undoing. All 44 of those former lawmakers are now members of the People's Party, the same party that just won 118 seats in the 2026 election. 10 of them had just won fresh mandates from voters. The morning after, the NACC is forwarding the case to the Supreme Court. If accepted for trial, those MPs must immediately suspend their duties. They could lose their seats. Their political rights could be stripped away permanently. Think carefully about the timing here. Election, February 8th. People's Party wins 118 seats, second place, strong showing. February 9th, literally the next morning, this NACC ruling drops publicly. Coincidence? You tell me. People's Party supporters immediately called it another example of judicial politics. The idea that Thai courts and independent agencies consistently intervene to cut down progressive parties whenever they gain any real political power. And honestly, the pattern is hard to ignore. Future Forward Party dissolved in 2020. Move Forward dissolved in 2024. Now, People's Party facing NACC referral in 2026. Every reform-minded successor hit with legal action. Let's now talk about what actually happens if Thailand's constitutional court decides to nullify this election. Because the consequences wouldn't just be legal, they would be enormous. For Thailand, for the entire region. Scenario A, partial nullification. Specific stations get fresh elections. Individual candidates lose their seats due to vote-buying convictions. The coalition holds barely. The government limps forward. Credibility takes serious damage but survives. Scenario B, full nationwide nullification. Every result wiped out. A new election within 45 to 60 days. Every party starts from zero again. Every campaign begins over, and the political chaos restarts completely from scratch. Scenario C, the one nobody wants to say out loud. Full nullification leads to prolonged deadlock. Street protests escalate from both sides. Deep economic damage accumulates. And potentially, another military intervention. Because that has been the historical Thai pattern. 2006, nullification then coup. 2014, nullification then coup. The critical question for 2026 is whether this time the cycle finally breaks, or whether history repeats itself yet again. The economic cost is already real and mounting. Consumer confidence weakens every time Thai politics enters crisis mode. Foreign investment slows. Tourism hesitates, and Thailand's economy has already been struggling with sluggish growth for years. And there's one more thing. Remember that referendum on the same day? 60% of Thais voted to begin drafting a new constitution, to finally replace the military-written 2017 version. That process now hangs in the balance. Constitutional reform requires a functioning parliament actively driving it forward through multiple steps and referendums over years. If the election collapses and parliament can't even convene, that entire reform effort simply freezes. Gone. Former EC member Somchai identified 5 separate legal tracks running simultaneously. Constitutional Court, Administrative Court, Criminal Court, the NACC, and the Personal Data Protection Commission over the QR voter data issue. 5 fronts at once. So where does everything stand right now, as of February 27th, 2026? The Election Commission has certified 396 out of 400 constituency seats, roughly 95%. 4 seats remain on hold due to ongoing investigations. The Bhumjaithai Pheu Thai coalition deal is in place on paper. Prime Minister Anutin looks set to return to power, but looks set is doing an awful lot of heavy lifting in that sentence right now. Today is the Ombudsman's deadline for the EC to explain the QR code situation. If the answer falls short, the Ombudsman can send the case directly to the Constitutional Court. That clock expires literally today. The Administrative Court accepted a lawsuit demanding both suspension of election result certification and a full new election with untraceable ballots. That case is moving forward independently of what the Ombudsman decides. The criminal court has a hearing scheduled for March 17th on charges that 8 Election Commission officials conspired to print traceable ballots, a violation potentially carrying serious prison time for public officials. People's Party is not going quietly. They've filed formal criminal charges against EC officials. They're preparing a direct Constitutional Court petition. 118 seats from the ballot box, and they intend to use that mandate aggressively. And across Thailand, ordinary voters who stood in line on February 8th are now watching all of this unfold. Some are furious, some are exhausted. Some hold careful protest signs outside ballot storage facilities demanding recounts. Here's what I keep returning to. Thailand holds elections. Elections produce results. Then a completely separate system, courts, commissions, independent bodies, decides whether those results actually count. Is that a democracy? I'm not saying courts are always wrong. Vote buying is genuinely illegal and harmful. Counting errors genuinely matter. But when the same coalition of reform-minded voters keeps winning and keeps getting legally undercut, that pattern raises serious questions. But here's the genuinely complicated counterargument. Thailand's conservatives would say, courts are protecting constitutional democracy from parties that want to undermine the monarchy, an institution millions of Thais sincerely and deeply revere. And the QR code question? That one is genuinely complicated too. If ballots can theoretically be traced, even if nobody did it, that's a serious problem for democratic principles. Voters must feel safe, always. What happens next will tell us a great deal about whether Thailand's democratic institutions have the strength and genuine independence to navigate through this without tipping the entire country into another political crisis. Every deadline, every court date, every ruling between now and early April, when the EC faces its 60-day certification deadline, matters enormously for the 70 million people who call Thailand home right now. So I want to ask you directly, if you were a Thai voter who waited in line on February 8th, cast your ballot believing your voice truly mattered, and then watched all of this unfold the next week, how would you feel? Sometimes democracy isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a constant, difficult, messy, ongoing fight. And in Thailand right now, that fight is happening in courtrooms, in parliament hallways, on social media feeds, and in the streets simultaneously. What happens in Thailand, a country of 70 million people at the heart of Southeast Asia, a key U.S. ally, a major tourist and trade hub, matters well beyond its own borders. It always has. It always will. The story absolutely is not over. In fact, with courts ruling, deadlines expiring, and legal proceedings accelerating, it's really just getting started. So the question isn't whether something will happen next. The question is what, after everything you heard today, the ballots, the QR codes, the 5 legal tracks, the dissolved parties, the 2 historical nullifications, I have one final question for you. Can Thailand actually break this cycle? Or is history repeating? That's a wrap for today. Thailand's 2026 election. Results that might not survive the courts, ballots that might not have been secret, and a democracy still searching for. We'll keep watching.